Congratulations to Jonas Vingegaard of Denmark on winning the 2022 Tour de France. With this title, Jonas becomes the second Danish rider to win the Tour de France, joining the Hall of Fame with Bjarne Riis. As Vingegaard and Jumbo-Visma celebrate deep into the Parisian night, we ask the question, how did Jonas Vingegaard win the Tour de France? Jonas Vingegaard's pathway to Tour de France glory this year all began last year on the road to the Grand Boucle in France. After finishing in second place at the 2021 Tour de France, Jonas Vingegaard was granted right of passage onto the start list for the 2022 edition at Jumbo-Visma. Alongside Slovenian star Primož Roglič, Jumbo focused on a strategy of two leaders from the get-go in 2022. Jonas' season began strongly in the Rhone Valley back in February, when the Dane took his first ever one-day race victory at the Drôme Classic. A month later, Jonas' first rendezvous with Tadej Pogačar, the reigning champion of the Tour de France, would take place at Tirreno Adriatico. Here, Jonas Vingegaard tried to come close to Pogačar, but the Slovenian was too strong. Eventually placing second in the Italian race, it looked like we were in for a Pogačar whitewash in 2022. However, once Jonas and Roglič joined forces at the 2022 Criterium de Dauphiné, things looked different. The two worked well together at the Dauphiné, with the duo triumphant arm-in-arm on the final mountain stage. This placed Vingegaard in second place overall behind his teammate, but surely Jonas was getting fed up of being second best. The 2022 Tour de France began in Denmark's capital of Copenhagen. As the hometown hero, Jonas was at ease. However, the pressure was there. After finishing in second place in 2021, Danish fans were hoping for one better from Jonas, who had been chaperoning a new faith in Danish cycling. Starting the race with one of the strongest team sheets we've ever seen at the Tour de France, it's clear why so many Danish fans believed in him. There was Wout van Aert, Primož Roglič, Stefan Kruijswijk and Sepp Kuss, just to name a few. These aren't lightweights in the Tour de France, so Jonas was well protected. However, crunch time would soon come on the opening time trial around Copenhagen. Riding into a hurricane of support from the home crowds, Vingegaard sailed around the Copenhagen course rampantly, placing himself in top 10. Crucially ahead of Roglič, but behind Pogačar and GC. However, with just a 15-second deficit to the yellow jersey Yves Lampaert, Vingegaard wasn't out of sight nor out of mind. After a tense couple of days in Denmark, Jonas navigated his home road safely to keep his place in top 10 in GC. Whilst Vingegaard soaked up the home support, it was his teammate Wout van Aert who cruised into the yellow jersey after the stage 2 sprint in Nyborg. This placed Jumbo in the forefront as the new race leaders. Back on French soil for stage 4, Jumbo led from the front. On the approach to Calais, an unsuspecting climb on the shore of the English Channel became an amphitheatre for Jumbo-Visma excellence. The short steep climb of the Cap Blanc saw the team rip apart the race to give Wout van Aert the best possible chance of victory. This worked to a T. Not only that, but in the chaos, Jonas appeared stronger than his teammate Primož Roglič, who was dislodged early on the hill. Once the dust had settled on this masterpiece from Jumbo-Visma, the riders were fixed on Stage 5's day in the cobbles. However, Jumbo-Visma's high from Stage 4 would come crashing down very soon. After negotiating half of the cobble sectors safely, Jonas Vingegaard gets into difficulty and is in need of a new bike. First, he takes teammate Nathan van Hooydonk's bike, but it's far too big. Then chaos continues. Jonas wants a new bike, switches over again, however the race was on, and Vingegaard had minutes to catch up to Pogačar. With the help of teammates, Vingegaard made it back to the peloton. However, an emphatic ride from Pogačar granted the Slovenian a number of seconds in the GC fight. Jumbo-Visma's day seemed safe, but for Roglič this day was far from comfortable as he came down in a crash. Dislocating his shoulder and fracturing vertebrae in the process, Roglič stumbled home 2 minutes behind Vingegaard, granting Jonas control of the team. Stage 6's hilltop finish in Longwy saw the end of Wout van Aert's reign in yellow, but Jumbo couldn't tame the exuberant Tadej Pogačar, who danced away with the stage win to take not only the honours but also the yellow jersey. With a big reshuffle in top 10, Vingegaard now found himself in third place after the hilltop finish. The next day it looked to be the Pogačar show again. This time wearing the yellow jersey, Pogačar and his UAE team led the Planche des Belles Filles climb with style, placing Tadej in the perfect position for stage victory. After sweeping up the breakaway in the final 100 meters, Vingegaard and Pogačar went on the offensive for the stage victory. Vingegaard initially looked like the strongest, but with the second wind behind him, Pogačar pipped the Dane at the line to take his second stage win of the Tour de France. After a valiant effort from Vingegaard on the planche, he moved into second place overall, just 35 seconds behind. From a second place at La Planche, Jonas said that he wasn't downhearted and wanted to fight. And that fight continued into the Alps. With some uneventful mountain stages, Jonas often found himself fixed onto Tadej Pogacar's wheel all the way to the finishing line in every single dash to the line. However, Vingegaard wasn't gaining any time on Tadej. On the other hand, with a small 39 seconds gap to Pogacar, it was still all to play for. A yellow jersey on the horizon maybe? Jumbo knew that something special had to be pulled off to shake Pogacar. Stage 11 offered a queen stage through the Alps. The Galibier and the Granon climbs on the menu, both rising above 2,000 meters in sea level, could really test the peloton. With Pogacar losing a teammate in George Bennett, Jumbo could look to test the Slovenian on this relentless profile. Already looking isolated on the Telegraph climb 70 kilometers from the finish, Roglic rolled the dice and jumped away over the top. Naturally, Pogacar responds to his countryman. With Jonas waiting in the wings, Jumbo play Tadej on the Galibier, launching attacks like confetti on the roads of the mythical climb. Eventually, Pogacar decides that he wants to lead from the front, attacking towards the summit of the Galibier. However, this would backfire as the race came back together on the descent of the climb. With a long downhill before the final kicker to the Col de Granon, Jumbo reorganized and formulated a plan. With Pogacar looking jovial and ready for the climb, he sent his teammate Rafał Majka to the front. With 4 kilometers to go, however, the tables turned as Jonas Vingegaard launched an almighty attack on the Granon. Responding behind was Majka, but once he looked back, he was greeted with a depleted Tadej Pogacar, who was crumbling on the Col du Granon. Sweeping past the remnants of the breakaway and early chances, Vingegaard soared all the way to the finishing line to seal his first ever Tour de France stage win. Not only that, he secured the yellow jersey convincingly, as his competitors wavered behind him. However, the damage was done as the reigning champion Tadej Pogacar rolled across the line 2 minutes and 51 seconds in arrears. After establishing his dynasty in the Tour de France, in the previous 2 editions, it looked like Tadej Pogacar had finally met his match. There was no time for celebrations, however, as the racing continued the next day. With a tough finish of the Alpe d'Huez on the cards, Vingegaard and Pogacar clashed again. On the iconic 21 hairpins of the Alpe d'Huez, Jonas was fixed to Tadej's wheel while Sepp Kuss delivered a first-class team effort to keep Pogacar's attacks at bay. However, once Pogacar launched away with 3 kilometers to go, he couldn't distance himself from the yellow jersey of Jonas Vingegaard. All the way to the end of the stage, Jonas and Tadej rode in tandem, moving the GC gap between the two to 2 minutes and 22 seconds. Moving from the Alps across to the Pyrenees, Pogacar tried whenever he could to leave Vingegaard behind. However, no matter how many attacks he placed, Jonas was always there. Moving into the third week of racing, Vingegaard and Pogacar were still going tete-a-tete. However, both of their teams had issues. UAE were losing personnel, but so were Jumbo-Visma, who lost both Roglic and Kruijswijk. Stage 16 made for a new dawn, however, with a new chain of mountains on the way, the Pyrenees. For the 16th stage, Jumbo and UAE controlled affairs, trying to tee something up for their leaders. With Pogacar as the stronger descender on paper, we were expecting a move from Pogacar on this kind of profile. He tried, but it all came back together. Over the final climb of the Mur de Péguin, Pogacar settled and accepted the fact that there was no chance of escaping away on stage 16. For Jumbo, they cunningly placed some riders in the breakaway, and Wout van Aert, the last left in the breakaway, remained in the group of favourites all the way to the end, diffusing any remaining attacks Pogacar might have wanted to place. Stage 17, however, had a more open profile. An uphill finish to Périgueux was on the agenda. From the get-go on the stage, UAE knew that they wanted to try to do something to turn this Tour de France around. After a valiant pull from Miguel Biel, the tide turned and Jumbo were on the back foot as they saw their domestiques pop out the back. At the front of affairs, Brandon McNulty drifted away, towing Tadej Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard all the way to the top of the Périgueux. On the difficult slopes of the airport runway in the final kilometre, Pogacar chipped away at Vingegaard to take the stage win, but Jonas showed that he wasn't going to let Tadej get away lightly. All in all, with time bonuses, Pogacar's gap in the GC came down to 2 minutes and 18 seconds. Stage 18 offered the final day of racing in the mountains at the 2022 Tour de France. Jumbo looked fierce from the flag drop, placing Wout van Aert in the breakaway. With a number of teammates left to control the peloton, all Vingegaard and Pogacar could do was wait. Over the top of the penultimate climb of the day, Pogacar rolled the dice big time, attacking away. With him came Jonas, and they stuck together on the descent. However, on the downhill, we witnessed quite the sportsman moment. After they both suffered some wobbles, they both waited for each other, knowing that this wasn't the way they wanted to win the Tour de France. In mutual respect, Pogacar and Jonas shook hands, demonstrating the class of this rivalry. In the chaos, however, Vingegaard's teammates came back, enabling him to isolate Pogacar in the final climb. The killer blow in the Autocam, however, would come when Wout van Aert, the green jersey, swept back from the breakaway to take turns on the front of the Pogacar and Vingegaard double act. In the matter of a couple hundred meters of Van Aert joining the group, Pogacar was dropped, allowing the yellow jersey and the green jersey to fly away up on the slopes of the Autocam. Jonas soon surpassed his teammate to take the stage win in emphatic style at Autocam. It's all historical as well, as Bjarne Riis won on this summit finish back in 1996 whilst wearing the yellow jersey. Jonas was clearly jubilant with a stage win and an impending yellow jersey in Paris waiting for him. However, Jumbo-Visma kept up the celebrations through the next 2 stages, after seeing Christophe Laporte take the stage win in Cahors, and stage 20's time trial in Rocamadour would be won by Wout van Aert. In that time trial, in fact, Jonas showed his strength even more, taking second place on the day behind his teammate and placing more time into Pogačar. By the end of the stage, it was officially sewn up. Jonas Vingegaard sat 3 minutes and 34 seconds ahead of Tadej Pogačar and 8 minutes and 13 seconds ahead of Ineos's Geraint Thomas. With the yellow jersey secured for Paris, all Jonas Vingegaard could do was roll over the line in Paris to safely take out Denmark's second ever Tour de France victory. It's 26 years since the last Danish win, and in 2022, Jonas Vingegaard is triumphant. Furthermore, he also sealed the polka dot jersey after a strong performance in the Alps and Pyrenees. This marks the 3rd time in a row that the winner of the yellow jersey has also won the polka dots. If you're looking for more facts about Jonas's triumph, well, in fact, the Dane is the most northerly born Tour de France victor in the history of the race. With all this success of this year's Tour de France, we hope you join us in congratulating Vingegaard on these great achievements. And if you enjoyed this video charting how Jonas Vingegaard won the 2022 Tour de France, then you can subscribe to the Cycling Dane YouTube channel and our social media. All of the links are available in the description below. Let's also get a conversation going in the comments. What is your memory of Vingegaard in this Tour de France, and how would you rate this Tour de France in comparison to years gone by? That's all we have time for in this video. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you around.